Shadow Tower Abyss, you either know about it or you don't. If you've played Dark Souls or Elden Ring, you might know about it. It's made by the same company. It even kind of plays the same as Dark Souls and Elden Ring, albeit from a first-person perspective. The game was released in 2003 exclusively for the Japanese market. There was an English version in the works, but it was cancelled by Sony before it was done. So the English version you see here is actually a fan translation someone made, and the translation was released in 2011, years after the game came out. This is also not to be confused with the first game in the series, just called Shadow Tower. That was released on the PlayStation 1, and I'll cover that later in the video. But for now, let's just talk about Abyss. Whenever you launch the game, you agree to this cutscene. It's short, so I'll let it play out.
暗い密林の奥で一人の老人に導かれた男は荒れ果てた祠を目にした。崩れた石積みにうがたれた穴の向こうにはただ闇だけが広がっていた。穴の中へと足を踏み入れる男の背後で老人はかすかに笑みを浮かべる。そしてまた一人供物が暗黒に捧げられた。
I did trim that video down a little bit towards the end, but that was really just CGI stuff. It didn't really add much to the story. After that cutscene, you're greeted by the main menu. After you start a new game, you're greeted by another cutscene. This one's a bit longer, so I'm gonna summarize it. There was a kingdom, and in that kingdom was a king. That king had a legendary spear, and he could bring peace to any kingdom he wanted. But it's been a long time since all that. You, the player, are now venturing into this old kingdom, and that's pretty much where it leaves off. After that cutscene, you're dropped into this room. In this room was a torch that's slowly fading away. After it fades away, it'll show you this dark and foreboding world. If you take a right down this hallway, a piece of the wall will fall down on you. This isn't just for show. This wall can kill you if you're walking too fast. Walking further down the hall will reveal a dying man. He will give you his knife and tell you to kill all the monsters you see. This is where the game's strange controls come into play. You can use the left stick or the D-pad to move around. Hitting up and down will move you forward and backwards. However, hitting left or right will turn you left or right. So the game runs on tank controls. I'm no stranger to those. However, the right stick is where it starts to get weird. The right stick is mainly where all the combat will be happening. Hit left on the right stick and you'll swing your melee weapon left. Hit right and you'll swing it right. Hitting up will let you stab, and hitting down will do like a downward slash. But unlike Dark Souls or Elden Ring, this game has guns. To shoot your gun, you first have to ready it by clicking down on L3, and then clicking it again to shoot it. And while you have your gun out, it slows you down by a little bit too. Moving on over to the buttons. X will bring up your inventory. Hitting circle will allow you to interact with items in the world, or let you interact with your inventory. And hitting triangle will allow you to switch weapons, that is, if you have another one equipped. Now we're going to move on to the triggers. Hitting L2 will let you look up, and hitting R2 will let you look down. And you can strafe with L1 and R1. This game's controls are very unorthodox, and not something you would expect from an FPS. The controls take a while to get used to. You're probably going to see me fumble with them and die a lot in the video. Moving on, you're eventually going to come across your first monster. This is where dismemberment comes into play. When you first see a monster, you're probably just going to shoot him in his torso or stab him to death. What you want to do is cut some of his limbs off. Cut off their eyes and they can't see. Blow their legs off and they can't chase you as well. Shoot their head off and they're probably not getting up from that, although they will try. Not every monster is the same. Each monster has their own limbs you can cut off, so next time you see a new monster, experiment a little. When I first started playing, I tried to conserve my ammo just by using my knife. I don't recommend doing this. What you want to do is use your knife and your gun. What I do is I'll use my gun to shoot off one of their limbs and then rush in with my knife and finish them off. Well, that's when I have ammo at least. There are several areas in this game. The first major one is this jungle area. It's the beginning area and it's not very long. After that, this frogman will pick you up in a boat. He will take you to an area with even more frogmen. Here I accidentally kill one of them, and I can't lie, I felt kinda bad about it. But no one else seemed to care, so I moved on. Also in this area is a horned woman. She will laugh at you and give you a key to this door. This door leads to a fork in the road. I originally went to the right. but you're not supposed to do that, I found out. I did in that area find a giant talking bug, but that's about it, so I backed out and took the left path instead. Now this is the way I'm supposed to be going. This area is a little cave with a bunch of monsters in it. I just ran past them all. After that is this poison area. Why does every FromSoft game have a giant poison area in it? This area is awful. The goal of the area is to take these little crystals and put them in these little fountains. Sounds easy, right? Well, unfortunately it's not. There's a good amount of obstacles in your way preventing it from being that easy. The main one being, well, poison. You will go through this entire area poisoned. I read somewhere that you're only supposed to be poisoned when you touch the water. That cannot be true. I got poisoned the second I entered some rooms. And if the poison didn't get you, there's monsters in this area that can easily one-hit you. And if you can somehow kill the monsters, there's a good chance they'll split into 2 others. I have spent over 2 hours in this area. I even tried to use a walkthrough, but that didn't help much. Then I tried to use save states, which I typically don't do. That kinda helped, but I was still way too low on health. Then it came to me. There's these bodies hanging from the ceiling, so I tried shooting them down and yeah, it dropped a health potion. And I finally put all the little crystals in the fountains, and I left. On the way out I got a Nambu pistol and a handful of swords and armor. Not too bad, but I don't think it was worth it. After the poison area, there's a chalkstone area. Here you will find the first boss in the game. You can hear him throughout the level. You can hear him roaring, and the roars actually scare the enemies and make them start shaking. That's pretty cool detail. The boss is this lion. At least I think it's a lion. It looks kind of weird. It took a few tries, but I did end up killing him. Just barely, though. After the boss, I went up this elevator thing back in the Forked Road area. I don't know what to call this area. There's former enemies turned into zombies and these plants that shoot lasers at you. It takes a lot to kill everything on this floor as they can regrow body parts, so I just walked past a good majority of them. A tactic that's been working pretty good so far. You can actually skip a good portion of this floor if you have any ammo for your gun left. There are these 2 toxic plant things that emit gas and they can actually hurt you. But if you're quick, you can get up close and hit them with your sword or some melee weapon. However, there's another one that would require you to go through a couple rooms filled with enemies to get to. However, if you stand on this ledge here, you can snipe it away, and that'll clear away any vines or anything blocking any doors for you. And that should save you some time and maybe even some health potions. Other notable things on this floor include a giant eyeball at the bottom of it. There's a really good sword here too, and I found an AR-15. Now this thing is good. It can make quick work of enemies. But it comes at a cost of not being able to carry a melee weapon, and you walk really slow with it. The next area is this waterfall area. Visually, I like the way this area looks. The other areas are okay, but I think this area looks really good. I didn't find much here. I found an M14 and a crossbow, and to my knowledge, this area was entirely optional. By the way it looks, I would have thought it was a main area, but I guess it's not. I almost feel kinda tricked, but I'm glad I went there because I got the M14 and that's kinda good. The M14 is pretty much an exact copy of the AR-15. Now that I think about it, was the poison area optional? Man, I hope not. I hated doing that thing. I'm gonna be mad if I find out that area was completely voluntary. Now I could keep going on about the areas, but I think you get the point. The areas are varied and they all have their own unique look and items. Now I said at the beginning I would talk about Shadow Tower, the first one. I'm a man of my word, so here it is. The first Shadow Tower was released on June 25th, 1998 in Japan and October 31st, 1999 in America. I've played this game before and I have some problems right off the bat. There seems to be a delay when looking up and down. If I were to hold the trigger to look up, it would keep looking up even after I've taken my hand off of it. This can be a big problem when fighting 2 enemies of different sizes. If I'm fighting a smaller enemy and a taller enemy comes up behind him, I have to look up fast to attack that guy too. I'm going to most likely overshoot it because the game is still moving my camera even though I've told it not to. It also doesn't help that some enemies need to be hit in a very specific place for them to actually take any damage. The slime enemies at the beginning of the game are a really good example of this. There's so much of them, but I had to practically be on top of them for them to take any damage. Playing this made me realize how good Abyss's control scheme really was. I've come to realize that attacking with the right stick is actually kind of fun. I don't want to trash on the game, but when it's compared to Abyss, I think Abyss is just a clear winner here. Now Shadow Tower, the PS1 version, was trashed by critics on release. The only review that I could find that's still up is the one by GameSpot. They said that it was frustrating and the graphics are bad. Frustrating I could maybe understand. The graphics part I don't understand. To me this looks like any other PlayStation 1 game in terms of graphics. Baroque looked a little better, but that's because it used sprites instead of models. Would I play Shadow Tower Abyss again? Yeah, I can see myself sometime in the future going back to it. But for now I think I've had my fill. I suppose that brings us to the end of the video. I'd appreciate it if you gave the video a like, a subscribe, and whatever else YouTubers have you do nowadays. Also, for this video I used some new recording software. I'd like to know what you think about it in the comments below. Hopefully I'll see you next time. The next video will probably be something a little longer and a little different.